So good morning, everyone. I do hope you've all survived the stormy night. I thought I was Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, so I was pleased to see that my house was still standing this morning and it's business as usual. So welcome to this morning's virtual career chat. Delighted to have one of our oldest alliance partners with us, Balfour Beatty, and they're going to share their exciting new military talent program with us. So sit back and enjoy. Over to you, Angela.
Okay, thank you, Caroline. So good morning and welcome everybody to the virtual career chats with myself, Angela Forbes. I hope you are all well and looking after yourselves and one another. So our week started with Valentine's sunshine and love and romance. Yesterday, as Caroline said, Storm Dudley gate crashed it, and we up here in Scotland have got Frosty the Snowman due to make an appearance tomorrow. So I think kind of Vivaldi's Four Seasons should be playing in the background somewhere here. However, I do hope love was in the air on Monday for you all, and no one forgot and is watching this from the doghouse. Now, we have been running these virtual career chats for 2 years now over the lockdown period to bring construction, its careers and employers closer to you, our service leaver and veteran community. You are watching these in your thousands and we're glad that you are finding them useful. Now, today, we are joined by Balfour Beatty, one of the leading international infrastructure groups, whose fascinating models see them finance, develop, build and maintain the vital infrastructure that we all depend on. So interestingly enough, they're involved in the whole life cycle of their assets. Now, many of you will know them from their JV on HS2 and many more besides, but we'll hear more about that in a sec. And today they are going to discuss their military programme. So we'll hear from our speakers first. We'll have a Q&A at the end, so please feel free to type in any questions as we go. And I am delighted to pass to Tony Ellender, and we'll switch our cameras off, Tony.
Lovely, thanks Angela, and thanks Caroline for the introduction. Can everybody hear me and can everybody see the slide there?
We can, yeah.
Lovely, thanks Angela. Okay, good morning everybody. My name is Tony Ellender. I'm the Professional Development Manager for Balfour Beatty, based up in the Northwest, but covering the UK, which is why I was travelling through that station. You can see on the slide yesterday, Blackfriars Station in London, visiting some colleagues in London yesterday on one of Balfour Beatty's projects from a few years ago. So Professional Development Manager for Balfour Beatty, and previously looked after our graduate apprentice programme. So just changed jobs recently within Balfour Beatty. But prior to that, as you'll see from the hashtag, I was commissioned in the Royal Navy and left the Navy to join Balfour Beatty a number of years ago. And I have to say, the Made in the Royal Navy, one of the greatest advertising coups ever. Maybe because I was born in Ely, which is the Isle of Ely. That was the water bit there. Okay, so I'm going to speak to you this morning, probably for about 15 to 20 minutes, about Balfour Beatty's new military talent programme. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the business first of all, about our more general commitments to the armed forces, and then to focus on the specific programme, which is a brand new initiative and a bit of a game changer within the business and hopefully within the industry as well. I'll be very happy to take questions afterwards, and I will also share the part of the Balfour Beatty website where people can find the opportunities. So really looking forward to speaking to you this morning and to answering any questions that you might have. Straight away, my slide deck is not moving on, which is a really good start, isn't it? There we go. Right, okay, so by the end of this event, we'll hope you know more about the military talent programme, feel inspired to apply. But it's not just about feeling inspired to apply. We actually would love you to take action, review those opportunities and apply for some of those opportunities. So Balfour Beatty, as Angela mentioned, we're a leading infrastructure group and we're involved in the whole life cycle. We're actually the UK's largest construction and infrastructure company, quoted on the London Stock Exchange, and we have about 26,000 people worldwide, of whom just under 12,000 are in the UK. And in the UK, we're from Aberdeen, up in the far north of Scotland, all the way down to Plymouth and most places in between. The only place that we don't work in the UK is in Northern Ireland. We've been around for 113 years, quite significantly. We're still called Balfour Beatty. There's not many companies that still have their original branding, founded by Mr. Balfour and Mr. Beatty many, many years ago. And you can see there a number of the significant infrastructure programs we've been involved in. And as Angela mentioned, we're currently involved in HS2, where we are building Old Oak Common Station down in West London, and also responsible for the main civils work up in the West Midlands. But we're also involved at Hinckley on the Thames Tideway. We build hospitals, schools, railways, tunnels, just about everything. But the only thing we don't do is large scale house building, although we do have a small house building company. And we're very big. 16, the most recent financial figures I'm able to share with you, because we're currently in the process of doing our 2021 full year figures, and obviously they have to be released to the stock exchange, which will be happening in early March. So I can't tell you more than the full financial year from 2020, when our revenue was £8.5 billion, and you can see there what the spread was, and our forward order book at last year's half year was about a further 2 years worth of orders. And most significantly of all, very important in the industry today, we're very strong on net cash. So very, very strong business financially at the moment, which is excellent. We're not, as Angela mentioned, we're involved in the full life cycle. So yes, we have this massive forward construction order book, and you can see there the sort of split between the UK, America, which is one of our 2 overseas businesses, and Gammon, which is a joint venture in Hong Kong. But as well as that sort of ongoing construction turnover, we also have an investments portfolio. So similar to some other companies, we invest money. It used to be into PFI when that existed, and it's now into things like student halls of residence and so on, both in the United Kingdom and the United States. So there's not just that ongoing contractor stuff, but also a strong underlying portfolio of assets as well. Now, away from Balfour Beatty, Angela and Caroline and others associated with industry will know that construction is booming. There's a really strong forward order book of economic infrastructure within the UK. So HS2 is obviously a well-known part of that. There's also nuclear. So Hinckley's well under construction, and Sizewell B looks like it'll be going ahead. There's a lot of road investment and rail investment. But there's also lots of other things going on. So the NHS is in the process of releasing a large hospital building programme, for example. And I'm here in Manchester. Anyone that's familiar with Manchester will know that it's Tower Crane City at the moment. So lots and lots going on across the UK in terms of construction. And construction and infrastructure is seen as an important industry for the economic recovery, because what we build then creates that infrastructure for other industries and other occupations to then do their business. So really, really important industry that's very early on in the economic life cycle of other industries. Without us building something, factories can't operate, for example. Balfour Beatty in particular, very strong forward pipeline. So HS2, they're just in the process of approving the line up to Manchester from Birmingham, so that will hopefully provide new opportunities for people. But there's lots of other things going on as well. There's the Northern Powerhouse Rail, which will go sort of across the country, sort of along the M62. There's Sizewell C coming up, the Lower Thames Crossing. Anyone that's familiar with the Dartford crossing will know that that gets very busy at peak times. There's going to be a second Thames crossing further down the river. But there's also lots of other things going on to do with carbon capture, offshore wind, etc., etc. So lots and lots going on. What's interesting about the construction industry is, I find it interesting, we focus on these massive infrastructure projects, and those are very high profile. But actually the industry is mostly made up of the aggregation of smaller and medium-sized projects. And there's an awful lot of that going on as well. It's just much more regionalised and much lower profile generally. So in terms of Balfour Beatty, our cultural framework, well, our sort of strap line is around build to last. We've been around for 113 years, and we intend to be around for many, many more years to come. And we say our purpose as building new futures, and that's around both building new futures for UK PLC in terms of the infrastructure, but also importantly for people like yourselves looking for second careers, building new futures in terms of people's careers. We do a lot of military recruitment, which I'll come on to in a moment, but we also have really strong apprentice and graduate pipelines, and anybody that joins us creating and developing their career is really, really important to us. And sustainability is a key part of that, but sustainability is more than about environmental sustainability. Net zero is obviously very high profile, and we've got our own ambitions around that, but it's also around waste, around the materials that construction uses, creates, recycles, etc. So zero waste is really, really important. And then the third strand of our sustainability ambitions is around people and looking around social value and positively impacting people in terms of things like jobs, engagement and employment outcomes and so on. So sustainability is more than just about the environmental one, which tends to be the one that people mostly talk about. So our commitment to the armed forces. So our HR strategy is around building expert capacity there. And Balfour Beatty signed the Armed Forces Covenant in 2015, so early on in the life cycle of the covenant, and we re-signed it in 2018, and we'll be looking to re-sign it and update it again later this year. Within the MOD's employer recognition scheme, we became silver in 2016 and gold in 2017. And I'm in the process of re-accrediting this year. That has a 5-year lifespan, and we're confident that we'll be re-accredited in that. So what does that mean for us in terms of the covenant? Well, one of the reasons we're committed to the armed forces, and you know, I'll be open and honest about this, MOD and Defence are big clients, actually. We do a lot of construction work for the Ministry of Defence, you know, one of my favourite examples of where Balfour Beatty was involved, we did all the electrical wiring on the aircraft carriers, which was fantastic. We also do a lot of construction work with MOD. So there's always a business benefit to all of this. So we're absolutely committed to the armed forces, but it's really important to remember that there's in everything, as you transition from the armed forces, there must always be a business benefit to everything that people do as well. Now, across the business, we have an armed forces community of over 200 colleagues. So that's people that are veterans, that are reservists, that are spouses and partners. And it's really important to us to provide not just jobs, but career opportunities to service leavers, but also veterans as well, those that have already left the forces. We support reservists. We encourage that. We give people 10 days additional leave, paid leave for reserve service. Then we have links with a number of reserve units. We also engage with cadet units as well. Most cadets, most young people in the cadets don't join the armed forces, but actually they've developed some great skills within the cadets that they can bring into things like our apprentice and graduate programs. And we also support a number of armed forces charities as well, and one of our major charity partners is an armed forces one. So we do lots already, and we get lots of people joining the business as individuals, as veterans and service leavers. What our military talent program is about really scaling that up. So rather than people joining individually into different roles through different partners such as Build Force and Career Transition Partnership and so on, the program is about bringing in cohorts of people, groups of veterans and leavers joining together as a cohort, starting with 60 people in May for our pilot, and then an ambition that will scale up to 2 or 3 entries a year with 200 people a year coming into the business as a cohort, so joining together. So think back to your time as, you know, whatever entry you were in as you joined, you know, Harrogate or Raleigh or Dartmouth or Sandhurst or even Cranwell. You know, think of that sort of approach of joining as a group and a cohort. That's what we'll be looking to do in the programme. Now, I don't need to tell all of you what Armed Forces leavers bring to organisations. There's lots of companies that are very positive about employing service leavers and veterans, and we're one of those businesses. And anybody that signed the Armed Forces Covenant, this is true for all of them. However, there are gaps. Depending on what part of the forces you've been in, there will probably be industry and occupational knowledge that you need to develop. There'll almost certainly be commercial awareness that's needed to develop. The Armed Forces, MOD, are particularly good at spending money, and budget control is important, but the idea of profit and loss is not something that's part of the Armed Forces. So that commercial awareness is something that's really important. It's also important to realise that you'll be switching from a very managed career to a very self-managed career, and that's important. One of the biggest things about leaving the forces, or if you've left already, you'll know, is that sense of belonging. And we want to help people continue that sense of belonging through having this cohort approach. And then it's also really important that people aren't just joining a job, but are joining a new career. And there's a long-term and visible career. And we think that construction in general, and Balfour Beatty in particular, can provide that. So our programme, the Military Talent Programme, is all about addressing those gaps. You'll be bringing a huge amount of transferable skills into the business, skills and experience that others won't have had, which would be really, really useful in the construction and infrastructure industry. So we're not going to reskill you in those, retrain you in those. We're going to assume those, and then we'll be adding in the programme these things where we think that you'll need additional support. And we use a principle in Balfour Beatty called 70-20-10. So that is a learning theory that 70% of your learning comes from on-the-job supported work-based learning. You'll all know this intuitively. You may have seen this model, but we're very explicit about it. So the programme is very much about being based on real projects, real sites, real offices, and developing with construction professionals around you. Those around you form part of that 20% learning through others. So not only will the programme see you working with more experienced construction professionals, but we'll also be aligning buddies and mentors from our existing military community to help people with that transition with advice and guidance. And then finally, within the programme, there is formal courses. So there are a number of formal courses, both formal courses that are common to everybody, but then also different courses depending on the type of role that people have been recruited into. Don't worry about the detail of this slide, but this just gives you a sort of idea of how we're structuring this year for our military talent programme. So this first quarter, we're looking at attraction and getting the words out there, and this is part of that. And then we'll be bringing people in through experience days to look at, and I'll talk about those in a moment. Then over the 6 months from May to November, there'll be a number of different training modules that people will be doing. So some of that might be specific courses. You can see those in blue. Some of them might be on the job training. Some of them might be around support. And a number of them are around get-togethers of the cohort. So there'll be a company induction, there'll be a midpoint review, there'll be a showcase at the end. So people will be based on sites, but also coming together as part of that cohort. Once the 6 months is finished, you'll just then continue with your career within Balfour Beatty, and that may take different directions. So I'll talk in a moment about the type of roles that we're recruiting for. And it's very important to realise that although it's a 6-month programme, it's a permanent contract, real job from day one, but the first 6 months has this wraparound programme. And then after that 6-month programme, which has a great degree of commonality to all, and then commonality between the different occupations, people will then sort of take different directions. They may do different qualifications, different courses, depending on the route that they're taking. But the key thing is there'll be ongoing training and courses, as there is for all Balfour Beatty colleagues. So what we're doing in this first cohort that's starting in May is we're focusing on 6 roles, and these roles have been identified in the business as roles where we have particular skills needs, but also where armed forces leavers and veterans will already have a set of skills that they can easily transfer into those. So 4 of the 6 roles are sort of technical and professional type roles. So section and project engineers who will need both engineering, who will develop in both engineering skills, but also supervision and team leadership. Planners, site supervisors, and health and safety advisors. But we also have a number of roles that are more hands-on. So about a third of Balfour Beatty's colleagues are hands-on trades operatives and skilled tradespeople. And we split that really into 2 separate parts. Construction type trades, so things like highways maintenance, plant operations and so on. And then more on the MEP side, so things like overhead lines, electrical and street lighting. So we've got roles available at both hands-on trade levels, but also in those more sort of professional and technical levels that will require some team leadership skills. What's really important on this is this program is for anybody with any armed forces background. So you don't have to have been a Royal Engineer or in REME or whatever to come into these programs. The whole point of the program is that we're adding in those construction skills and knowledge that you may not already have. Rough timeline, and I'll go into more detail in a moment. So we went to the business at the end of last year and said, here's the new program. What do you need? Now, to give you a sense of how keen this business is on the program, we were looking for 60 opportunities for the first cohort, and that's to do with making it a manageable cohort, and that's how many opportunities there are. The business asked for 140. So we've already got the opportunities for the next cohort filled, which is great. So the business is really keen on getting people like yourselves into the program and into our company. We're now working on attraction and engagement, and then over February, March, maybe into early April, we'll be doing recruitment and selection through our regional experience days. I'll talk about those in a moment. The program will run from May to November, and then there'll be the ongoing career development post program. Again, I'll emphasize this is not 6 months and then we decide whether you have a job at the end or not. This is a permanent contract from day one, of which the first 6 months is this structured program. So vacancies go live. Well, they're now live, and we'll do a bit of Q&A, and then I'll share on our website where you can find them. We'll then be reviewing CVs as they come in. So myself and a colleague have planned out a number of experience days in different locations across the country. And those experience days are where people will be invited to them to meet the hiring managers, also to meet members of our existing armed forces community. There'll be a number of exercises, there'll be a number of interviews, but also information about the company and the program. And we'll be using those as our recruitment experience. So the vacancies will close in early March. Actually, we've extended that to the 13th of March, which you'll see on the vacancies because that they went live a few days later than we'd hoped for. So these experience days will then be taking place across March, and as people come to those experience days, if they're suitable for the program, if it's appropriate for them, and that's a two-way decision, then we'll be making offers for the program to start in early May, and there'll be further cohorts later in 2022, and then an ongoing thing into Balfour Beatty. The application process, well, I'll show you in a short while where you can find the vacancies. But I would suggest that one of the first things to do is research a bit about the company. Balfour Beatty is a very diverse company. It always helps to do a bit of research about it to check whether that we're the right fit for you. If you're keen to join an SME when you leave the forces, don't come to Balfour Beatty. We're a very big company, and you know, that's appealing to lots of people, myself included, when I joined. But if you're looking to join a smaller company, then Balfour Beatty might not be right for you. Have a look at the vacancies and consider which ones best match your aspirations and skills. So we are not demanding too much in terms of your background and entry. So each vacancy will say what our basic requirements are in terms of skills. Some of them may require some team leadership experience, but not all of them. and some of them may require a STEM background, but not all of them. And also each vacancy has the locations on. So because this is around real vacancies that the business has identified, they are location specific, and we tell you on the advert what the locations are so that you can understand that. And that's really important as you're leaving the forces, or if you've already left, because where you're going to be living is obviously really, really important. If you are happy to move, that's fine. But also we want to make sure that if people are committed to a geography already, that's explicit. We'll be looking for some basic information in the application, including it does ask for what your leaving date is, what your current service that you're in, and it also asks for your current salary and your salary expectations, because this is not about people starting again at the bottom. We're looking wherever possible for people to move sideways into roles. So it's important that we understand where you are in the armed forces salary hierarchy. When you do your CV and submit your CV, please, 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 no more than 2 sides. And no matter how much CTP tell you to civilianize it, don't civilianize it too much for this program. We want to know what your armed forces background and experience is. It's the point of the program. So make sure that you include your military service, your rank rate, your progression through the forces, because that will help the matching process. And try to tailor that CV to the role being applied for. So if it's a role that requires supervisory or team leadership experience, emphasize that in your CV. And as I've said, some basic information is required to assist that matching process. And I'll talk about why that's important in a moment. And just to reassure you, all CVs will be reviewed by a real person. So we don't use, sort of a computer looking for certain words. They'll be reviewed by real people with a military background. And it may be that we come back to you and ask for some further clarification around, where you've been based, or, what your leaving date is, or if we think there's something missing in terms of some of that information. But you will be reviewed by a real person. Geography and timing will matter. So this initial program starts in May. So if you're not leaving till October, November, or even next year, it may be that you can't join this program yet because you can't leave the service yet. There will be future cohorts. It may be that the role that you're after, that you think best suits you, isn't available in your geography. The next cohorts will have different geographies and different roles. But what I would say, or it may be that your experience is either insufficient for the program or even too much. If you've got a lot of experience in construction or health and safety or something already, in either of those cases, it might be that you're not right for the program, but actually you're suitable for a specific role in Balfour Beatty. So what I would say is apply anyway. Apply anyway, because we'll not just be matching people to the program, but using this as an opportunity to also review all those CVs and say, well, actually, we've looked at your CV. We think that because, you've got a lot of experience in construction project management from your time in the Royal Engineers or whatever it might be, actually, there's a role here that you could go directly into without the program. We don't think you need the program. So, we're being deliberately open on who's applying. So, and it may be also that the program is around these specific roles, but there's always other roles in Balfour Beatty as well. And again, we can look at that. So you will be reviewed by real people, and we will then be doing something appropriate with your application from that. As I say there, the experience day. So the experience day that we would invite people to find out more about the company, and there's a selection process there that will include line and hiring managers and colleagues from our military talent community. The first thing we'll do is look at matching you to the role that you applied for. or one of the other MTP roles if it's not quite right for you, the one you've applied for. And as I say, the contracts are permanent, but the first 6 months are on programme, and in common with all companies would be probationary. But it may be, as we say, that your existing skill set may better match a direct opportunity. They're difficult to predict. They change all the time because of the project nature of our business. And it may be that we match you up to those and take you through a different interview process and put you in touch with one of our dedicated military recruiters and that appropriate line manager. It may also be that Balfour Beatty isn't quite the right fit for you. It may be that you decide, I don't know, maybe you want to join a smaller company, or the geography is not right for you, or you're not quite ready for the programme or a specific opportunity. And we've got a lot of partners that we can signpost you to for additional support. I guess what I'm saying is there'll be a specific answer to your application that helps you with the route that you want to take. I'll repeat, geography and timing will be factors. So, those really basic things are important. They're important to us, and no doubt they'll be important to you as well. Now, I'm going to stop there. It took me a little bit more than 20 minutes. Apologies for that. So I'll just stop sharing. And then we'll go to Q&A, Angela and Caroline, if that's okay.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
fine,
I'll
please.
finish off with sharing our website and where those opportunities can be found.
That's it. Fantastic.
Thanks very much.
That's great. So, okay, David, sorry, can I ask you to switch your camera off, please, if you don't mind? Right, Tony, there's a lot of fantastic detail there. That was great. If you do have a question, please raise your hand or type it in the box, and we'll ask it for you. So just for you, Tony, just to warm us up and get us going, you transitioned yourself. So can I ask what you learned about yourself, or what realizations did you have as you transitioned?
Yeah, it's a long time ago now, Angela. I've spent many, many more years in Balfour Beatty than I spent in the Navy, so I never turn up for anything 5 minutes early anymore, and my shoes are not nearly as shiny as they ever used to be. But it's a great question. So when I joined Balfour Beatty, actually, CTP and resettlement were in a very different place. There wasn't the support from people like yourselves and others that there was then. So it was very much on my own. And companies were very much less positive about the military. There was a much more personal process. And what it was really interesting, I applied for loads of jobs and got almost no first interviews. Every first interview I had a second interview. And what I found really interesting was that quite often, civilian companies, and Balfour Beatty at the time was no different, don't really get the forces. We're in a very different place now. The covenant has improved people's understanding. Companies like Balfour Beatty and others, and a lot of the Balfour partners, are much more engaged with knowing what skills people have. But I think my biggest reflection, Angela, is still it was a personal journey. And I guess the purpose of this programme is to make it a joint journey where there's a structure for people to help that transition. Not just from the formal training and development that we'll be giving people, but the fact that people will be joining together. So there'll be lots of peer-to-peer support and opportunities to work with each other as they develop through the programme. Does that make sense, Angela?
It does make sense. And obviously Balfour Beatty have employed ex-military previously. So yeah, if we've got any service leavers that are watching this, just on the brink of making that jump, what advice or words of wisdom could you impart to them?
I think for me, the biggest reflection is everybody in the military, almost everybody in the military, there's always a few exceptions, Royal Air Force. Oh, did I say that out loud? I do apologise. Can't help myself. Yeah, so everybody in the military has got a huge range of transferable skills. They're quick learners. You have to be, don't you? You change jobs every few years. And if you go on operations, you change what's happening every 10 minutes. The biggest shock, I guess, is the fact that your career is no longer managed for you by somebody else. It's very much a self-managed career. So you'll have the skills, you'll learn quickly, you'll respond to training and development really quickly, But the additional bit, I think, is that you have to be thinking, and you'll know this, Angela, from your time in the construction industry. Quite often, you have to make opportunities yourself. The company's always looking out for you, but particularly in businesses that are winning new projects all the time, that are based all over the country, you need to keep your eyes open as well and put yourself forward for opportunities. So yeah, I think the biggest shock for me, Angela, was that transition from a managed career where you go where you're told and someone's looking down on who's where, to that self-managed career.
Okay, now that's great. Right, a couple of questions coming in. Do you know the dates of the programme for the rest of 2022?
Yes. So in terms of the programme will be starting from the 9th of May, and we see people joining throughout May, and then for the next 6 months there'll be formalised training days and dates, and some of those will be common, and some of those will be different depending on which of the routes that people are taking. And we'll be sharing those specific dates at the experience days, partly because we're still agreeing some of those dates internally and with providers. But in effect, people will be joining the business in May, and then sort of from the end of May through till November is when the training will happen. Remember, 70% of what people will be learning will be on the job, and the courses will then be supporting that throughout that time.
Okay, and just as a rule of thumb in people's minds, is this an annual programme, do you think? Is May a date they should keep at the front of their head?
Yeah, great question, Angela. So this is the first programme. We'll be expecting the second cohort to be probably around the autumn of this year. But then the intention is, as we scale up, and we'll learn from the first programme, we won't get everything right first time. We expect 2 to 3 entries per year, so that and they'll be very visible to the Armed Forces community, through yourselves and through others like CTP and so on. And we would then say to people, in 2023, there's an MTP entry in, January, April, September, or whatever. Similar sort of concept actually to what Balfour Beatty and other companies such as your own, Angela, do in terms of things like graduate entrance. So think of it as a graduate concept, albeit at a different and higher level, but in terms of that formal entry points.
So a great question from Tony. If you're applying and you're unsuccessful, will you hold the CV and consider them for the next cohort, or do you need to keep reapplying in every instance?
No. So if people are unsuccessful, it depends on why they're unsuccessful for this programme. So it might simply be that they're unsuccessful because their geography or their timing doesn't match our geography and timing for this programme. We will keep hold of their CVs and then tell them about new programmes and new opportunities as they come up. But it may be also that we then want to match them to other more direct opportunities that are available that are outside of the programme. So this programme is focused on, these specific roles in these specific areas, but there's always opportunities, across the broader Balfour Beatty. And it may be that we signpost people, to other organisations such as Balfour or others that may provide, additional support or mentoring or training that people need. But yeah, we'll certainly won't be thanks but no thanks, and you'll get this random email. There'll be something that's personalised and relevant, and we. What I hope actually is that, we fill the 60 places on the MTP, but the other 5 million people that apply, it won't be 5 million, but you know what I mean? We can look elsewhere within Balfour Beatty or share them, through the industry as well. Balfour obviously has, lots of great relationships with lots of other companies, and it may be that, we redirect them back to Balfour and say this person could suit a different type of company or whatever.
And just on that then, so obviously where there is a skills, a labour shortage in industry, will you be opening this up to your supply chain and helping pass this down the line? Great
question, Angela. So for those outside of construction at the moment, companies such as Lend-Lease, who Angela works for, Balfour Beatty and others, a lot of our work is done through supply chains, through subcontractors, although supply chain sounds much more inclusive, who are separate companies and have their own opportunities and tend to be SMEs. In the initial cohort in May, the answer is no, simply because we're focusing on the sort of Balfour Beatty aspect of it and getting it right. But yeah, as it develops and as this becomes, you know, more part of what we do, then absolutely we would be looking to involve our supply chain. But again, that might be part of the signposting for people in this one. And again, you know, Billforce has lots of links with lots of SMEs and, you know, people across the supply chain and broader industry as well. So yeah, no for the first cohort, Angela. I'll be very explicit about that because we're focusing on the Balfour Beatty opportunities, and you know yourself the complexity of, you know, it's difficult enough knowing what your own business needs in a big business across the UK when you add in the supply chain as well. And again, what I guess what people on the call will need to understand is, you know, the way that dynamic industries work, particularly construction, where there's new projects starting and finishing all the time, predictability of roles can sometimes be an issue, can't it? That's just a fact of life.
Yeah, and Mark's, yeah, no, very helpful actually. Thank you, Tony. Mark's asked a question, just reminding us that there are LCAS allocated to each of the service leavers. Which courses would you recommend, or how could the candidates be more viable for the Balfour Beatty programme? Okay,
great question. So LCAS is your money for your development. So this programme, we have identified training and development for these courses, and Balfour Beatty will be organising them and paying for them. So we won't be, if people have LCAS money or credits, we won't be expecting to tap into that. That's yours to use. And if you then need subsequent sort of education or training or apprenticeships or whatever after the programme, then again, that's for us to look at and finance. Now, if you want to use your LCAS for an open university degree in basket weaving, and by the way, I'm a massive fan of the Open University, I did my master's with them, then crack on. But if you need to, you know, build on the programme with a civil engineering qualification or becoming professionally qualified with the Chartered Institute of Building, we'll do that and support that.
Fantastic. Rebecca's made a lovely comment to say that the programme sounds great and it is good to take that leap forward, but to know that you're supported is particularly appreciated. So thank you for that, Rebecca. Our dates and locations set. Yes, thank you, Rebecca. Our dates and locations set for the experience application days.
Yes, and we will share those shortly. Yeah, and there's a couple that we're still finalising. And it's a great point, Angela. So the experience days we've got, they'll be real, they'll be face to face. You better see, you know, eyeball each other. There's a thought, returning to face to face. And we've set them up in a number of regional locations, and those locations are sort of linked to where the opportunities are. So I'll give you an example. One, you know, some of them are in Derby, where we've got a big Balfour Beatty office centre there, and that'll be for those roles that are in and around the East Midlands or the West Midlands. So we'd invite you to the experience day that is closest to the opportunity that you've applied for. So taking very much a geographical thing on that, because that's where the recruiting managers and those businesses are based. So we'll be inviting to those that are closest to the opportunity, and that may be where you're resettling or already resettling. You've got family links. If you're based away at the moment, you know, if you're in Rosyth, for example, but you've applied for an East Midlands opportunity, we would bring you to the East Midlands experience day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Ian's asked a question on salary. So will the individuals be starting on a training salary, or will they be benchmarked industry salaries reflective of the role they're doing?
The second one. So what we've done is, as part of the setup of this is, and it went into the choice of roles actually as well, we've benchmarked sort of Balfour Beatty salaries against military salaries. So we sort of, you know, that's why we're asking you where you are in the military hierarchy, because what this is not about is getting cheap labour. This is about people moving sideways into roles that build on their experience that they've got. And so we've benchmarked our salaries, and I won't share those openly now because Angela will just write it down and use it for industrial espionage. And they'll be lower than yours anyway. So Angela, no, that's what we all say, don't we? but we have mapped them to the military salaries, so we know that, you know, these type of roles here in Balfour Beatty are roughly, you know, aligned with, I don't know, lance corporal, corporal sergeant, whatever it might be, because that's one way of helping to benchmark people's level of experience and suitability for things. But there are opportunities at various different levels. This is not about a training salary, the expression you use there, Angela, great expression. This is about people, as much as possible, moving sideways, and then once they're in, they'll get reviewed regularly and can climb the ladder in the normal way. Because once the program is done, you know, you're a permanent Balfour Beatty employee from day one. Once the program is done, you know, you're a veteran, but you're a mainstream site supervisor, whatever you might be, and you'll climb the ladder accordingly, in line with opportunities in your own skills. And you can move as fast or slow as you want, or as your ability takes you.
Okay, you mentioned in terms of nationwide presence, you mentioned Scotland, but we've got someone asking from Southwest Wales. Is that a location?
Yeah, we've got opportunities in South Wales. We've got a project there that we're doing on the light rail in South Wales, actually centred around Cardiff. I'll be perfectly honest now, for this first cohort, and I apologise, Angela, in advance, none of our opportunities in May are in Scotland this time round, but that doesn't mean they won't be in future cohorts. We've got a very big and strong business in Scotland, but just the way the Scottish market has been very different in the last couple of years to England and Wales, because I'll speak to Nicola about that. So, you know, the Scottish industry's got different opportunities at different times at the moment. Yeah. But yes, South Wales and across England and South Wales, there are opportunities, but not on the first cohort in Scotland. However, if you are based in Scotland or looking to move to Scotland, still get your CV in, because there will be non-programme roles available in Scotland that may suit your skill set. So
great recovery, Tony. Great recovery. I said great recovery. I should be enjoying you there, but you came back. Well done, you. Mark is asking a question. If anybody's due out in the kind of June, July time, are they going to miss the May course? Should they apply for the next one?
Again, I would encourage people to apply, to get their details and CV in the system. There's sometimes some flexibility, isn't there, around people's final termination date. There might be terminal leave. The next course we would look to be in the autumn is my hope. Again, that will be, you know, we'll be going out to the business for opportunities. That'll be part of that personal discussion that we have with people. And, you know, again, you'll know yourself, Angela, you know, we tend to have fixed start dates for things like programs, if they're graduate programs or apprenticeship programs or something like this. The reality is there's often a bit of flexibility, a few weeks either way. So don't not apply because your terminal date is the 1st of June. Let's, you know, get you in the system, look at whether you match, and it may be that we can, you know, we'll have that personal discussion, and everyone will be, you know, there'll be different circumstances for everybody, won't there?
Okay, a few questions on locations and dates, but again, you'll come to that, and that information will be on the website. A question from Christine. She noticed one of the courses on the programme is the APM, Project Management Fundamentals. She already has this, but she hasn't done the practitioner. Will that be on the programme? So
the practitioner won't be in the first 6-month programme, but would be, depending on the role and the route that people are taking, would be on one of the follow-on courses once people have done the programme. If you've already got elements of the programme, that's great. You know, it won't, you know, that, well, frankly, it'll save us a bit of money. Thank you very much if you get onto the programme. So if you have got things already through your resettlement training, tell us that in your application, in your CV, because that's always helpful and will help us tailor the programme. So, yeah, we won't be asking people to do things again. And things like the PMQ, actually, Balfour Beatty, in common with a lot of others, uses the APM qualification structure for our project managers. And we've got an in-house PMQ programme that we deliver. That's part of my other role outside of the military side. So we would post it wouldn't be in the first 6 months, but we would do that then in that ongoing training afterwards.
Okay, and will you be offering any trade apprenticeships?
Yes, so a number of the roles are trade. So because the programme is 6 months, and by law apprenticeships must be a minimum of 12 months and a day, people won't be registered on an apprenticeship from day one. So the trade opportunities like highways maintenance so will be focused on those trade skills that people need and the various tickets and health and safety stuff that people need. But then undoubtedly for a number of people, one of those follow-on continuing training things might be an apprenticeship, might be a further education qualification, it might be, you know, professional qualifications. It will be different for everybody, but yeah, potentially it could be an apprenticeship if that's the right route for people.
Okay, fantastic. And again, just to note, you did say that Balfour Beatty welcome reservists and provide the additional 10-day leave, which is fantastic. So a huge round of applause for Balfour Beatty for doing that as well.
And that's 10 days paid leave. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if people are in the reserves already, if they're a veteran, we would continue that support. If people, when they leave, want to, you know, join the reserves, and actually within the program, we'll be having some input from the reserves about, you know, that ongoing thing, because the reserve forces are particularly keen to bring, you know, ex-regulars into the reserves now. Much more so, I'd like to add, than when I left the full-time Navy and tried to join the reserves, and they told me my eyesight was crap, which is quite interesting. But that's another whole story there. We won't go into that one.
Joseph's asked a question in terms of how do you actually apply? Is it via LinkedIn? But I think you're about to share those details, aren't you?
You go into the careers part of our website. You should see this homepage here. You search jobs. And then in keyword, and I'm going to send some information to Caroline to share with Balfour's participants. The keyword here, look at that. I've been searching on it already in preparation, Angela. Keyword is military. And you search on that. And there we go. The system works. Amazing. So we can see here, military talent program section engineer, site supervisor, construction planner, health and safety advisor, project engineer, mechanical, electrical, street lighting, construction operative, construction plant, electrical, highways maintenance, and overhead lines and piling. And the reason there's 12 rather than the 6 is obviously a number of the operative roles we split up to make it a bit more specific for people. So all that you do is search military, up comes the military talent pro. I'm glad that worked. Cool, Angela and Caroline. That would have been the worst thing if that worked on the webinar, wouldn't it? You click on the one you think is the most appropriate for you, and there we go. Section engineer, and right at the top you can see where these are available. Okay, tells you a bit about the program, tells you a bit about what you'll be doing. So what a section engineer does, many of you may know already, many of you may not, so it'll tell you all about it, what we're looking for, and then it'll tell you if you do need anything in advance. So we've tried to keep this to a minimum, but section engineers have engineering responsibilities and some supervisory responsibilities. So we are looking for people with a STEM background, not necessarily civils or construction, could be mechanical or electrical or any other STEM background, and some team leadership experience. And then the rest is generally generic stuff. Why work for us, apart from because we're brilliant. And then you can see the closing date there. And then when you go to apply now, you go into the next bit. It asks you for some personal information, which includes, quite usefully, first and last name, where you're living, and then if you've been referred, so if you've come through somebody like Buildforce or whatever, then do put that in here. Be keen to know that, and you know, Buildforce will be keen to know that too. And then pretty hopefully you'll have a right to work in the UK if you've been fighting for the UK. And then if you're currently serving or not, because this is both leavers and veterans, if yes, what's your leave date, what is or was your service, clearly in the correct order of the seniority of the services. We are looking for your highest military rate or rank achieved, again, because that will help us with the matching process, current salary expectations, and what area of the UK do you wish to work in. So tell us your address, but it's really important that you say where you wish to work. And then, again, if we're unable to place you in the one that you choose, it's your opportunity to tell us, well, if can't get section engineer for whatever reason, I'd also be interested in health and safety or something like that. And then from that, you'll then attach your CV. And as I said, with your CV, keep it to 2 pages, keep the military stuff in, and you know, target it towards the role. So that's where you can find them on the Balfour Beatty website, and I'll send out those links directly to Caroline for distribution further.
Perfect. Just two
so hopefully that
questions.
answers that, Angela.
It definitely does. It definitely does. And we'll share that again with everybody watching. 2 last questions just before we close. James has asked a question. I'm just going to bookend it. If somebody's got aspirations to be a project manager and they don't have enough experience, would you still consider them for the programme? And the second question is, if somebody has aspirations to be a project manager and they're actually quite a senior rank, would they be suitable for this programme?
Okay, so great question. We need lots of project managers. It's what Balfour Beatty does. We manage construction projects. In this first programme, project manager is not one of the roles. There's a reason for that. You know, project managers, as people know, a medium and high level seniority thing. So if you think that you want to be a project manager, but you don't, as your first bit there of the question, Angela, you've not quite yet got the experience or the skills or whatever it might be, then apply for something like section engineer or site supervisor or planner, because that would be a route to project management. Our project management community generally, it comes from people that have been engineers before, commercial managers, QSs, planners, whatever it might be. So if it's so all of these roles are a route to project management. So that deals with hopefully the first bit. The second one is if you're already, you know, fairly high rank experience, you've got project management experience, then you'll probably be suitable directly for a project management role that's outside of this program. So 2 suggestions really. One would be, well, look at project manager roles more broadly on our website and apply for one directly. That's fine. Lots of people do that. That's how we capture a lot of military people already. Or apply for a role knowing that you're too experienced for it, but it gets your CV in the system and means that your CV will be reviewed by our military talent people within the business. And what we'll be then doing is in the background saying, right, this person is maybe suitable for a more experienced project manager role, and going directly to the recruiters there. So does that hopefully answer that?
It does, Tony, and it's
question?
music to a lot of the service leavers and veterans' ears, because all too often they submit their CV to one person in an organisation and the left and right hand don't know what they're doing. So yeah, it gets lost and forgotten about. So the fact that your organisation is speaking and the CV can be passed to the relevant person is really, really, really good to hear. Final question from James. If he's successful and he's soaring in his career as a site supervisor, in terms of professional development, would Balfour Beatty in years to come support him through a degree or his professional accreditation?
Absolutely. So my new role in Balfour Beatty, actually, now that I don't look after graduates and apprentices anymore, is professional development. And one of the, you know, we already support people through whether it's ICE, RICS, CIOB. That'll be the next stage after the programme, I guess. If you're site supervisor, actually part of the programme for a site supervisor is one of the CIOB certificates. So you'd already be starting that CIOB journey as part of the programme. But again, that'll be, you know, part of the ongoing development discussion. So the programme is sort of an off-the-shelf thing, lots of common stuff, specific stuff whether you're a supervisor, planner, health and safety. But the intention is you will then build on all of that. And we want people to then be moving on to, you know, getting whatever qualifications, help them move up the ladder, becoming chartered professionals and, you know, becoming project managers, running the business. Who knows what?
Exactly.
Taking over from me.
Exactly, Tony. So listen, thank you very much, Tony, for your incredible contribution today. It's been an excellent session. And for our service leavers and veterans listening, Balfour Beatty are looking for all your military transferable skills, exercising those leadership and management skills. So offers incredible opportunities. This is a great second career, and the rewards and the challenges and the thrills are there. So please consider it. You aren't alone. Balfours are here to support you and help you transition. So please get in touch with Caroline if you have any questions, and she will help you take this further. Tony, some of the compliments are already coming in saying great session. So thank you again. And I'll pass back to Caroline to close.
Thanks, Angela. And yeah, Tony, I mean, I've already seen this program in a private presentation, so it's really good to see how developed it is, and it's a fantastic program, employment program. We need to call it employment, don't we, rather than program, for that start into the sector, and with Balfour Beatty, so it's brilliant. And we work very closely with Balfour Beatty, so like Angela said, please get in touch. We can advise you, we can refer you. And I noticed someone mentioned about 2023. We can make sure that's progressing for you, because that's what I do. I wave a stick and make sure things are pushing ahead. So our next event, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm saying it, I've got palpitations, is the 3rd of March, and it is our wonderful live event, our face-to-face event. They are my babies, they are my favourites. And pleased to say Tony will be there as well, amongst 40 other leading employers from the sector. It is a fantastic day. If you haven't booked your place, I will still accept you. I won't say no. The door is always open, but you must reserve your place. So email me or info email. Look forward to seeing you. It's going to be a very busy, full day. So really looking forward to it. So enjoy the day. Sunshine here at the moment before the next storms kick in. And take care of yourselves, and see you all again soon. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Tony.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.